Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Have you ever wondered what truly defines who we are? Are we really the sum of our experiences, our achievements, our desires? What if everything we thought we knew about ourselves, about life, was actually an illusion? Today, we are diving into one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, the concept of no-self. The idea of no-self, anatta in Pali, is one of the foundational doctrines in Buddhist philosophy, yet it often raises questions and even confusion. After all, if there is no permanent self, then who are we? How can we understand our identity, our place in the world, and our relationships with others if the very concept of self is an illusion? In this video, we will explore the Buddhist perspective on no-self and unravel how understanding this concept can lead us to a deeper understanding of life, existence, and our true nature. To begin with, let's address a crucial question: what does no-self actually mean? In Buddhism, the concept of no-self teaches that the self is not a permanent, unchanging entity. The self we identify with our thoughts, feelings, body, and even our memories is an ever-changing phenomenon, subject to the laws of impermanence and interdependence. In essence, no-self challenges the conventional belief that there is an eternal, fixed pie at the center of our experience. At first glance, the idea that there is no permanent self may sound disorienting or even unsettling. We often define ourselves by our identity, our achievements, and the roles we play in society. We identify ourselves through our relationships, our careers, and even our hobbies. These self-definitions give us a sense of security and control over our lives. But according to Buddhism, this perception of a solid, unchanging self is an illusion. To understand this better, we need to break down the key elements that make up what we call that self. Buddhism teaches that our experience of being nice is constructed from 5 aggregates, also known as the 5 skandhas: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These aggregates are constantly changing, and none of them are permanent or independent. Our bodies, for instance, are in a constant state of flux, with cells dying and regenerating, and our thoughts and emotions constantly shifting. The key realization in Buddhism is that the self we cling to is a composite of these ever-changing elements. There is no fixed, permanent self to be found in any one of these aggregates. When we cling to the idea that I am my body, I am my thoughts, or I am my experiences, we are mistaking impermanent phenomena for a permanent self. This mistaken belief creates suffering because we resist change and feel attached to things that are inherently fleeting. So, what happens when we let go of the belief in a permanent self? The practice of no-self invites us to shift our perspective from identifying with a fixed I to recognizing the impermanence and interdependence of all things. Instead of seeing ourselves as isolated, independent beings, we begin to see that we are part of a much larger web of interconnected experiences. This realization opens the door to a more profound sense of freedom, as we no longer need to defend or cling to a rigid, unchanging identity. In daily life, understanding no-self can transform the way we approach relationships, work, and our personal goals. We often tie our self-worth to our accomplishments, our image, or the approval of others. We worry about maintaining a certain reputation or achieving certain milestones to validate our existence. However, when we embrace the concept of no-self, we begin to let go of the need to prove our worth to others or to ourselves. Instead, we can focus on the present moment and engage with the world around us without the constant pressure of maintaining an identity. This doesn't mean that we become indifferent or passive. On the contrary, recognizing the impermanence of the self allows us to live more fully and authentically. Without the weight of an unchanging, fixed identity, we are free to engage with the world as it is, without the burden of self-judgment or fear of failure. We can pursue our passions and goals, not because we are trying to prove something to others or to ourselves, but because we are deeply connected to the process itself. One of the most powerful ways to practice the wisdom of no self is through meditation. Meditation allows us to observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. As we sit quietly and watch the flow of our thoughts, we begin to see that they come and go like clouds in the sky. We are not our thoughts, we are the awareness that observes them. This practice helps us detach from the constant narrative of that self and recognize that our thoughts, emotions, and experiences are temporary and ever-changing. As we deepen our meditation practice, we begin to experience the freedom that comes from understanding that we are not defined by any one thought, feeling, or experience. Our true nature is not bound by the fleeting nature of our mind. Instead, we are the awareness that watches it all unfold. This realization is liberating because it allows us to let go of the need to control or cling to our identity. We can simply be present with whatever rises, without getting caught up in the drama of self. But meditation is just one tool. In daily life, we can practice no self by recognizing when we are clinging to our identities or creating stories about ourselves. Whenever we feel frustration, anger, or anxiety, we can pause and ask ourselves, who is experiencing this? What part of me is holding on to this emotion? By examining these questions, we begin to see that our emotions are not who we are. They are just temporary states of mind that arise and pass away. Another important aspect of no self is compassion. When we understand that others, like ourselves, are not defined by a permanent self, we begin to see them with greater empathy and understanding. We recognize that their actions, thoughts, and behaviors are also shaped by impermanent factors and conditions. This understanding softens our judgments and allows us to approach others with a sense of openness and kindness. No self also challenges the way we think about suffering. In our lives, we often encounter pain, loss, and disappointment. These experiences can feel deeply personal, and we may identify with them, thinking, I am the one who is suffering. However, the wisdom of no self teaches us that suffering, like everything else, is not permanent. It arises and passes away, and it does not define us. When we stop identifying with our suffering, we can experience it more fully and without the additional burden of self-judgment. This shift in perspective doesn't make suffering disappear, but it does change how we relate to it. Instead of clinging to our suffering as a part of our identity, we can approach it with mindfulness and compassion. We begin to see that suffering is not something that belongs to the self, it is simply a part of the ever-changing flow of life. The practice of no self ultimately leads us to awakening. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment is the journey of realizing that the self is an illusion, and that true freedom comes from seeing things as they truly are. By letting go of the false notion of a permanent self, we can experience life more fully and connect with the world in a deeper, more meaningful way. As we continue to practice no self, we begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. We understand that our thoughts, actions, and experiences are shaped by countless causes and conditions. No one is truly separate from anyone else. We are all part of the same vast, interconnected web of existence. To conclude, the Buddhist teaching of no self invites us to see beyond the illusion of a permanent self and to embrace the impermanence and interdependence of all things. By doing so, we can experience true freedom, peace, and compassion. The wisdom of no self allows us to live more authentically, to let go of the constant pressure to define ourselves, and to simply be present with whatever rises. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope this exploration of no self has provided you with new insights and a deeper understanding of life and the true nature of existence. If you found value in this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with more content like this. May you find peace and freedom in the wisdom of no self, and remember that the true nature of who we are is not something we need to seek, but something we already are.